Assalamu alaikum, my dear students, ladies and gentlemen, my dear knowledge workers, knowledge professionals. Assalamu alaikum, and let me welcome you once again to session number 6 on knowledge management. Session number 5 and session number 4, I raised certain questions. I invited you that look around what kind of customers you will find in the markets which are based on knowledge-based economies. What are the changes coming on in the customers of the organization? इसलिए कि हमने KM को, knowledge management को organization के perspective में भी learn करना है कि why the organizations in Pakistan or around the globe should use this discipline, should use this tool, should use this methodology to gain an advantage in a competitive market. There must be some reason. And then at the same time, I said to deal with these customers of the knowledge-based economy or the economies of the world, what are the kind of workers which are emerging and how the managers in the organization should learn, should develop themselves to deal with these knowledge workers. Remember we said, go around, visit a company, visit an organization, see some difference, how the work is being done, how the customer is asking question, informed question, knowledgeable question, always demanding for a little more advanced in technology product, for a little more information about the service which he or she is looking for. तो हमने कहा था कि customer, 21st century, knowledge-based economy and the market is the one who knows no border. Here comes the click, goes an order, you never know which organization, where, would pay the money through credit card and would like to get the product. So the physical borders do not mean much. हमने ये भी कहा था कि customer day by day are demanding for more speed, are demanding for more value for their money. और मैंने खास तौर पर आपसे बार बार टेलीकॉम सेक्टर की तरफ तवज्जो दिलाई थी कि प्लीज लुक अराउंड how the rates are going down, cost, the price, and how the services are going higher, better, more efficient, more user-friendly. Rather, sometime you will see that the customers will be demanding some innovative services. अच्छा, फिर knowledge worker के बारे में हमने क्या कहा था? That how do you have to develop yourself to deal with these kind of market? We said, well, knowledge worker is the one who would like to take care of his own career, would not wait that why and how and when the organization for which he or she is working is going to remind him to update his knowledge set, his skill set, his mindset, his competency set, so that his talent should be in high demand. फिर हमने ये भी कहा था कि knowledge worker is the one who would like to appreciate taking challenging assignments, where one can contribute an algorithm, where one can come up with a logic, where one can present an argument, an idea, an innovation which brings respect, which brings higher salary, which brings better rewards for himself, for his country, for his family. और इसीलिए हमने कहा था कि he or she might be the one who is updated in knowledge, a bit more smart, ready to contribute wherever the knowledge is required. And where the idea will go, the money will follow. और फिर साथ ही मैंने आपसे कुछ पॉइंट्स भी ponder करने के बारे में, सोचने के बारे में, just think about it. That how the goals in your career, how the goals in your career have changed over a period of time, the last 5 years, for example. And then, if your goals are changing, then what kind of new skill set is required? Gone are those days, my dear students, when only medicine, engineering, and maybe science and technology was the discipline in high demand. Look at all these new jobs which you'll find in the newspaper. Content provider, relationship manager, accounts executive. Look at all these new titles which are given to you. A person high in demand who can speak well. Only English, only communication. A person who can speak an accent, who can speak in an accent, which is global friendly. So in other words, there are a lot of opportunities. So you have to find out for yourself, you have to decide for yourself, how are you going to exploit your own personal knowledge, your own individual capital, your own knowledge capital for yourself and for the organization. फिर हमने ये भी कहा था कि organizations के अंदर, you have to think about it. कि organizations के अंदर, when the things are changing and the information rich services, technology are high in demand, then how are you going to deal with those challenges while working in the organization or while switching an organization for a better prospects? And why not? So these were some of the questions which we raised. And naturally, this demands that we need maybe a bit different kind of manager. Well, this different kind of manager certainly should be more intelligent. And let me share with you then what kind of characteristics there should be in this manager and what is the role of knowledge in this high demand manager in Pakistan, outside Pakistan. This is the new type of manager which is high in demand. Number one, who must be intelligent. अच्छा जरा सोचिए कि जितनी characteristics आपके सामने आ रही हैं, they are individual focused, human focused, knowledge focused. Who is intelligent? Number two, he must be motivated. He or she must be driver of his own to improve the process, to improve the product design, to come up with a better structure, to come up with a better technology, to give the organization a better brand, who must have the ability to create and sustain a vision of success. So in other words, these are the people who have the success in their own eyes for themselves, and they will bring success to their customers and to their investors of the organization, who can supply critical thinking skills. अच्छा ये ऐसा एरिया है कि जो मैं आपसे रिक्वेस्ट करूंगा, critical thinking skills. Don't get angry with someone who is criticizing your idea. Let him fry your idea. So you will think better. You will think more intelligently. Because that's the game of the argument. That is the game of the ideas. That is the game of the improvement in process on the basis of your own thoughts. So this is a person. अच्छा फिर देखिए जब हम कह रहे हैं thinking skills. Well, thinking skills, and especially critical thinking skill, what does this have a relationship with the knowledge and information and data? And we will see what is the relationship and how one can think critically. Who can criticize your own idea, who can take this criticism to refine the product, to refine the design, to refine the office, to refine the work environment. who is creative and innovative, not only in product but in attitude. सोचिए जरा कि creative और innovative attitude कैसे develop होगा. Once again, it is your mindset. Who can steer and sustain change? मुश्किल होती है change, but remember when a new information system is introduced, when a new structure in the organization is introduced, and that is what knowledge management is all about. Professor Nonaka की वो किताब Knowledge Creating Company को पढ़िए. He talks about a hypertext organization. अभी तक तो आपने TQM में भी पढ़ा होगा, मैनेजमेंट में भी पढ़ा होगा, mechanistic structure and organic structure. And naturally, organic structure is much better. But then what is this hypertext structure? आप में से जो IT के स्टूडेंट्स हैं वो hypertext markup language तो आपने सुनी होगी, XML and HTML. Here we are talking a hypertext structure who can manage diversified knowledge workers who have different types of skill sets, who feel happy to get his own ideas fried and who are willing to fry the people's ideas. And then above all, who has some personal ethics and social responsibility and shows social responsibility. Personal ethics. I am responsible for the decisions which I am making in the organization. I feel responsible to the community in which this organization is working. I feel responsible to what happened to the customer who is going to use the product of my company. Ethics. ये हैं वो चंद चीजें कि जो हम मैनेजर से भी डिमांड करते हैं, ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस भी डिमांड कर रही हैं. And if you read newspapers and magazines, you will see that at the international level, remember it's a globalized world. Immediately what goes on in Pakistan becomes the part of the globe. And similarly, what goes on somewhere else, you feel part of it. Now, if an unethical statement is made in a TV in England, in Britain, in UK, immediately the noise is made in Asia. Immediately the people in Asia react to it that if somebody is getting biased on the basis of color, that's unethical professionally. That's what diversification is. We like to work together. Whoever is professional, whoever is knowledge-based, whoever is willing to deliver, deploy his or her own skill set for the advantage of organization is more intelligent. And speaking of that intelligence, my dear students, then what is it? Please note, it is your capacity and capability. दो चीजें. It refers to the capacity and capability किस चीज के लिए? Number one, to acquire the new knowledge, and number two, to deploy, to apply that knowledge for a new process, for a new product, for a new service, for something of a new value. That means smart is the person, smart is the company, smart is the product who acquire new knowledge. इसका मतलब ये हुआ कि acquisition of knowledge, creation of knowledge, innovation of knowledge. मैंने तीन बातें कह दी, बात तकरीबन सेम है. या खुद क्रिएट कीजिए, इन्वेंट कीजिए. अगर आप व्हील इन्वेंट नहीं करना चाहते, री इन्वेंट नहीं करना चाहते, तो इनोवेट कीजिए. इनोवेट भी नहीं करना चाहते तो एक्वायर कीजिए. तीनों चीजें पॉसिबल हैं और तीनों के लिए नॉलेज मैनेजमेंट सिस्टम्स अवेलेबल हैं. We'll talk about that. But right now we are talking that to acquire the knowledge, and then acquisition is not the complete story. That's only half of the story. मैंने PhD कर ली, आपने MBA कर लिया. That is acquisition. But then this acquisition is no good until and unless you put this knowledge into action. That is where the value comes. For you at the personal level and for the organization. तो दोनों चीज, इंटेलिजेंस का मतलब ये होगा कि आपकी कैपेसिटी और आपकी कैपेबिलिटी, और इसी से मुझे रिलेट करने दीजिए लर्निंग ऑर्गेनाइजेशन का कॉन्सेप्ट. पीटर सेंजे, रिमेंबर वी टॉक्ड अबाउट इट. इंटेलिजेंट विल बी द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन विच कैन acquire and apply. It has the capacity to innovate. It has the capability to create or to acquire and then to apply. Learning इसी का नाम है ना, कि you innovate, you create or you acquire and then you apply. You become a learning organization. You become a learning individual. And naturally, learning organization would be the one where you have a collection and group of people who are themselves have a mindset for learning. So it helps, यानी intelligence, it helps you. तो देखिए, इसका मतलब ये होगा कि मैं आपसे भी फिर एक्सपेक्ट कर रहा हूं कि डिफाइन कीजिए कि किस किस डिसिप्लिन का, किस किस एरिया का, किस किस टाइप का और किस किस लेवल का नॉलेज मार्केट में आगे बढ़ने के लिए, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में आगे प्रमोट होने के लिए, एडवांस करने के लिए, जो भी आपका टारगेट है, गोल है. मैंने कहा था ना, आपका पर्सनल गोल. नेचुरली व्हेन यू हैव पर्सनल गोल, देन यू विल डेवलप द ऑर्गेनाइजेशनल गोल. सो इट हेल्प्स इन थिंकिंग, इट हेल्प्स इन एनालाइजिंग, इट हेल्प्स इन रीजनिंग, it helps in predicting and it helps in decision making. इसका मतलब ये हुआ, ये नई कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स हैं जो आपसे रिक्वायर्ड हैं. We are looking for those young managers, ladies and gentlemen like you, who are able to think out of the box, who are able to think rationally and innovatively, who are able to analyze between good and not so good, and who are willing to make the company, an organization, an office, a home, a country, a community world class, who has appreciation for local values but willing to learn the global values, and then who can predict, forecast on the basis of the previous data and on the basis of his or her own intuition and insight and a foresight that how the sales trend might be the next quarter, how the students might take courses in the next year, how the curriculum will change, how the service delivery will be changed, and how the customers would be demanding a new type of product. Predict and then provide that product so you be ahead of the competitors. And the last point was decision making. अच्छा, ये जितनी चीजें हम यहां लर्न कर रहे हैं, इसमें नॉलेज का क्या रोल है? Can you think without knowledge? Can you analyze without any information? Can you make a good decision when you don't have any information? Can you predict without having insight? Insight and foresight and hindsight. तीन चीजें मैंने कह दी. Hindsight is the past. Insight is the present. Foresight is the future. Can you do it without any data or information? And the last point, my dear students, speaking of intelligence, is that intelligence makes a distinction between a novice. देखिए, मेडिकल डॉक्टर जो हाउस जॉब करता है, वो जो अप्रेंटिस मास्टर के साथ काम करता है, वो नोविस है. आप लोग एमबीए करते हैं ना, उसके बाद क्या करते हैं? इंटर्नशिप करते हैं. व्हाट इज दैट इंटर्नशिप? नोविस. यू हैव लर्न्ड द नॉलेज इन बुक्स. नाउ यू वुड लाइक टू अप्लाई दैट नॉलेज टू द प्रोसेस, टू द ऑर्गेनाइजेशन. ऑफ कोर्स यू विल मेक मिस्टेक, यू विल लर्न. सो हियर वी आर, इंटेलिजेंस, a distinction based on the novice, an expert, and the master. Naturally, this is on the basis of the skill set, the experience, the expertise, personal knowledge. तीनों के पास बैचलर की डिग्री है, मास्टर की डिग्री, तीनों के पास. एक नोविस है, एक एक्सपर्ट है, एक मास्टर है. तीनों का एक्सपर्टीज लेवल, तीनों का इंटेलिजेंस लेवल, तीनों का पर्सनल नॉलेज लेवल. किताबों का नॉलेज एक ही है, लेकिन पर्सनल नॉलेज personal experience, personal insight is different. बल्कि मुझे यहां कहने का मौका दीजिए, 2006 के 10 wealthiest people in the world, 10 wealthiest people in United States, let's talk of them. Out of 10, very strange, out of 10, abhi list publish hui, out of 10, in 2006, there are 6 people who are university dropouts. उनमें से 4 वो लोग हैं जो सॉफ्टवेयर या हार्डवेयर या सॉफ्टवेयर एंड हार्डवेयर की इंडस्ट्री या सेक्टर में काम कर रहे हैं. Let me share with you an information. In other words, do you have an idea that you don't want to wait, that it will become obsolete and the market will not be willing to pay you the price? So these 4 or 5 people, they thought they have an excellent idea. They did not want to wait to get their degree completed. Now, मैं आपको ये इसलिए नहीं बता रहा हूं कि मैं इंस्पायर कर रहा हूं कि आप ड्रॉप आउट हो जाए, नहीं. मैं आपके थ्रू उन लोगों को भी ये मैसेज देना चाहता हूं जो हाई स्कूल या कॉलेज या यूनिवर्सिटी से ड्रॉप आउट हो गए. मेरे पाकिस्तानी फेलोज, प्लीज put whatever you have learned in practice. Come up with some new idea. Market will pay you the price. The richest man, Bill Gates, university dropout. His friend, Paul Allen, ये 2006 की लिस्ट की मैं बात कर रहा हूं. वैसे तो हर साल ये लिस्ट आती है. Paul Allen, again, industry sector, software, university dropout. तीसरा, Larry Ellison, database specialist, university dropout. Michael Dell, Dell Computers देखे होंगे आपने. So the question is that do you have your personal knowledge capital, an idea which should be floated in the market and the market should be willing to pay you the price. So what is your market value? That is what most important. Are you intelligent enough that there would be enough customers who are willing to buy your product? So in other words, my dear students, knowing your weakness and knowing ignorance is becoming strength. University dropout is not good, but knowing it and converting this into your strength, because ignoring knowledge is sickness. So you must know that knowledge and ignorance are the opposite sides of the same coin. And a knowledge which is out of the market has no value. And let me share with you the knowledge, the circle of knowledge and your circle of ignorance goes together. Notice the relationship between knowledge and ignorance. When you acquire more knowledge from a master, from a course, from a class, from a friend, from a family member, from a teacher, from the organization, from the internet, from the customer, from the market, from the process, you name it. When you acquire knowledge, ignorance gets shorter, knowledge, circle of knowledge gets bigger. It's your personal knowledge. And knowledge gives you power. And knowledge sharing is even more powerful. Notice more knowledge you acquire, more types of knowledge you acquire, skill set you acquire, experience you acquire, ignorance of that area gets smaller and smaller. And let me read a quote to you from James Addison, speaking of the ignorance and knowledge. He says that knowledge will forever govern the ignorance. Knowledge will forever govern the ignorance, and a people who mean to be their own governor, people who want to be their own driver, their own governor, must arm themselves with the power which knowledge gives. So, my dear students, you have to understand what knowledge is in demand in the market. Have you learned it? Are you ready to deliver? And then we will see what are the different types of knowledge at the personal level and at the organization level. But anyhow, knowledge is your capacity. Remember we talked about capacity and capability, making you intelligent, making you smart. Knowledge is the human capacity. And speaking of capacity, please notice it is your potential and ability that you take effective action in varied and uncertain situation. That is where you get the competitive edge. In varied and in uncertain situation, when the market is volatile, when the environment is dynamic, when the markets are global, when the products are coming with lower and lower price, how are you going to face this situation? Your potential and your ability. So in other words, companies get advantage on the basis of knowledge which is in the workforce, which is in the knowledge workers of that company. So my dear students, then my message to you is that you better know your value. Know your value and value what you know. And please manage your knowledge and make it pay. And remember, we just said knowledge is your capacity, potential and ability. That how can you acquire, how can you apply, and how can you apply in a varied situation and in uncertain situations. Who is willing to take charge, who is willing to become governor on the basis of knowledge and make it pay. Why not? Here we are to get the market value. So my dear students, while learning KM to give advantage to the organization, उस कंपनी में जहां आप काम कर रहे हैं, कैसे उसके सेल्स प्रोसेस को, मार्केट प्लानिंग प्रोसेस को, स्ट्रेटेजिक मार्केटिंग के प्रोसेस को, ऑपरेशन के प्रोसेस को कैसे आप इनोवेट करेंगे, कैसे इंप्रूव करेंगे, कैसे कस्टमर्स से रिलेट करेंगे, कैसे कस्टमर्स को सेटिस्फाई करेंगे, कैसे उनका लॉयल्टी का और सेटिस्फैक्शन का लेवल इंक्रीज करेंगे, कैसे कस्टमर्स की कंप्लेंट को कम करेंगे, while learning KM for that aspect, so you can enhance the organizational performance. My purpose to speak with you is also that please you manage your knowledge, value what you know, and then let the market pay you what you know, your skill set. And if your skill set, personal skill set, is getting out of the market and you want to move further, well, to move further, then find out, get yourself an information. What is the requirement of the market? Learn it, deliver it, apply it, and the market will pay you. That's why I say that are we Pakistanis smarter than we think? Think about it. Very little difference between a smart and a stupid. इसको नोट कर लीजिए. Smart is a person and a company who knows and apply it, put the knowledge in action. Stupid is a company who does not learn from its own mistakes, who knows it, but does not put the knowledge into action. What were the customers complaining? What were the students complaining? What were they not liking? Can we change the delivery? Can we change the design? Can we make the students, the customers, happy? हर प्रोसेस का कोई ना कोई कस्टमर तो होता है. इस पर्सपेक्टिव में प्लीज try to become a smart manager, a smart knowledge worker, and exploit to the fullest your personal capital, which is knowledge capital, so your individual capital grows and you deploy that knowledge for the organization, so the intellectual capital of the organization also grows. Let me give you a quick comparison so you can compare the 20th century with the 21st century. What are the differences? Number one, 20th century में रेज्यूमे पे आप पास्ट एजुकेशन लिखते थे, years of experience लिखते थे, और अगर अभी भी आप लिख रहे हैं तो प्लीज थिंक ऑफ चेंजिंग. व्हाट आर द काइंड ऑफ रिक्वायरमेंट्स. ऑफ कोर्स कहीं ऐसी भी मैंने रेज्यूमे देखे हैं कि लोग एंड के ऊपर जाकर 2 लाइनें लिख देते हैं, मैंने मास्टर्स फलां यूनिवर्सिटीज के. दैट्स गुड इनफ. व्हाट पोजीशंस यू वर होल्डिंग फॉर द लास्ट 5 years or 4 years, status and rank. Take a look on the 21st century. What talent do you have? What knowledge do you have? What is the skill set you're bringing to the company? What experience you have? In how many cultures, in how many countries, in how many companies have you worked with diversified workforce? How creative you are? How resourceful you are? How many people do you know in the community? What is your social network? Remember we talked about social capital? Resourceful. Resources की बात नहीं हो रही. Organizations are ready to provide you the resources. लोन देने के लिए बैंक आपके पीछे पीछे फिरते हैं. What we are asking is, are you resourceful? That once the resources are given to you, financial resources, human resources, technology, when the resources are given to you, can you use it for the best advantage of the company and for yourself and the attitude? देखिए इन सब के अंदर नॉलेज का क्या रोल है. So my dear students, then let us see how things have changed, and let us learn when the things are changing how the management has been changing. Take a look on this 5 ages of civilization. A time when societies and the countries and the people full of hunters and gatherers, and then came the agricultural era, moved into the industrial era, and we are talking of the knowledge era. Civilizations are changing. And let me read to you something which Professor Steve Covey has written in his book on 8th habit. कहीं से मिल जाए ये किताब तो पढ़िएगा. And see how he is comparing these different ages of civilization. और फिर ये डिसाइड कीजिए कि आपके शहर, आपकी ऑर्गेनाइजेशन, आपकी कम्युनिटी, आपकी तहसील, आपके कस्बे में जो ऑर्गेनाइजेशन है वो किस एज में रह रही हैं. स्टोन एज का नाम सुनते होंगे आप. आज अगर कोई हंटर और गैदरर और स्टोन एज की बात करता है, हंटर वही होता था ना जो पत्थर यूज करता था हंटिंग के लिए या तीर कमान यूज करता था, वो वक्त नहीं है आज. तो फिर कैसे चीजें चेंज हुई? लेट मी रीड टू यू एंड लेट अस कंपेयर देन and take for a minute, imagine for a moment that you take a step back in time and are a hunter and a gatherer of food. Each day you go out with a bow and arrow or stones and sticks to gather food for your family. That's all you have ever known, seen and done to survive. Now imagine that someone comes to you and tell you and try to persuade you to become what he calls a farmer. What do you think your response would be? You see him, you see the farmer, that he goes out and scratch the earth and throw little seeds into the ground, but you see nothing. You see him watering the ground and removing weeds, and still you see nothing. But eventually, you see a great crop. You notice his yield as a farmer, his productivity as a farmer has gone 50 times greater than yours as a hunter and gatherer if you don't change. But what would you do then? You would likely say to yourself, even if I wanted to, I could not do that. I don't have the skills and I don't have the tools to become farmer. You just wouldn't know how to work that way. Now the farmer is so productive that you see him making enough money to send his children to school, and you give them great opportunities. But you are barely surviving. Little by little, you are drawn to go through the intense learning process of becoming a farmer. You raise your children and grandchildren as farmers. जैसे आजकल हमारे गांव में होता है. That is exactly what happened in the history. There was a downsizing of hunter and gatherers of over 90%. Hunter and gatherers lost their jobs and people became farmer in the agriculture era. Several generations pass and along comes the industrial age. Beginning of the 18th century. People build factories and they learn specialization, delegation and scalability. They learn how to take raw materials through an assembly line with very high levels of efficiency. The productivity of the industrial age goes up again 50 times over the agricultural age. Now, if you were a farmer producing 50 times more than the hunter and gatherer, all of a sudden you see an industrial factory rise up and start outproducing the farmer by 50 times. What would you say? Are you ready to change, my dear students? You might be jealous, even threatened. But what would you need to be a player in the industrial age? You would need a completely new skill set and a new tool set and a new mindset. More importantly, you would need a new mindset, a new courage, and a new way of thinking. The fact is that the factory of the industrial age produced 50 times more than the family farm. And over time, 90% of the farmers, they start losing their job because those who survived in farming, they took the industrial age concept and created the industrialized farm. That is how the shift was from the farmers to the industry workers. Today, very few people, especially in the developed world, like United States, they are farmers. And if you see how many people are farmers and how much they are producing for the whole world, you will be surprised. They produce most of the food for the entire country and much of the world. Do you believe that the information and knowledge worker age we are moving into will outproduce the industrial age 50 times? Well, that's what it looks like. We are just barely beginning to see it. It will outproduce not only 50 times, but even twice or 3 times or even 10 times. Chief Technology Officer of Microsoft, he puts it this way: the top software developer are more productive than an average software developer, not by a factor of 10 times or 100 times, even 1,000 times, and sometimes 10,000 times. Quality knowledge work is so valuable that unleashing its potential offers organizations an extraordinary opportunity for value creation. If that is true, my dear students, then just think of the value of unleashing the potential of your children to come in the next generation. Knowledge worker leverage all of other investments that an organization or a family has already made. In fact, knowledge workers are the link to all of the organization's other investments. They provide focus, they provide creativity, and leverage in utilizing those investments to better achieve the organization's objectives. Do you believe, my dear students, the knowledge worker age will eventually bring about a downsizing of up to 90% of the industrial age mindset? Remember, that's why we said knowledge worker and a manual worker and a clerical worker. Well, looks like so. Think of that outsourcing and unemployment trends, especially in the developed countries. In fact, these trends have become a very hot political issue. In the backdrop of WTO and the regional cooperation, this is an issue to be discussed at the country level as well. But the reality is that much of our losses in industrial age jobs have less to do with government policies and free trade agreements, because there is going to be deregulations and liberalizations in the market and in economies, than they do with dramatic shift in our economy to the knowledge worker age. Do you think it will be threatening to today's workforce to learn the new mindset, the new skill set, and the new tool set of this new age? Imagine what it will take from you and what it will take to be a player in this new era. Imagine what it will require of your organization. And let us see how Peter Drucker compares the industrial age and the manual worker age with today's knowledge worker age. He says, the most important and indeed the truly unique contribution of management in the 20th century was the 50-fold increase in productivity of the manual worker in manufacturing. The most important contribution management needs to make in the 21st century is similar to increasing the productivity of knowledge work and the knowledge worker. The most valuable asset of a 20th century company were its production equipment, the machine. The most valuable asset of a 21st century institution and an organization, whether business or non-business, will be its knowledge workers and their productivity. And remember, the Chief Technology Officer of the Microsoft is saying 10 times, 100 times, 1,000 times. And that's why Its chairman and chief executive is the richest man in the world, and he says, I have created many millionaires, not only in United States in my head office, but around the world. So how are you going to use your knowledge, your skill set, and your expertise, and how are you going to be converting yourself from the mindset of agriculture to industrial to knowledge? Because in Pakistan, we are working in these three H's. Some people still associated with the agricultural age. But are you using new type of seeds, new type of marketing strategies for farming, of selling the farm product? Are you thinking what are the different agricultural chain being produced in the livestock, in the crops, and how the crops are being updated in terms of its knowledge and the knowledge which the farmer uses if he is knowledgeable. And same is the case with the industrial age worker. So the choice is there that how are you going to look at the civilization and compare how it goes up. That is what it says, that in the agrarian age or hunter and gatherer age, if you combine them together, because for example, if you go to some remote areas of Pakistan, still you will see hunters and gatherers. 90% on the land work was done, 90% on the land, and labor was intensive. And look at the rhythm of the season, fall, winter, spring and summer. यानी आपका time clock जो है, it goes into months. Maybe one crop in a year, or at the best, maybe two crops. So the time clock is on the basis of months, and the pace is quarterly based. Here comes the industrial age. And please take a look on the industrial age, whether in the universities as an organization or in the factories as an organization. The mindset in the industrial age is that the manager will say, manager will tell, manager will direct, and the workers will do the job and will do the work. Remember scientific management? Division of labor. Decisions will be made by the managers. They will tell the students what to do. Teacher will dictate and direct. और अभी अगर बहुत सारे एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस में ये माइंडसेट है तो ये इंडस्ट्रियल माइंडसेट है. But please take a look. Capitalists were investing money, rupees and dollars, to build the factories and infrastructure and bring in the machines, and laborers were there to work in the factories. And the laborers were told, workers were told by the manager, and no matter how smart worker there is, he or she is not authorized to improve the process or innovate the process. बल्कि assembly line के अंदर तो यहाँ तक कहा जाता है, even if the product being made is defective, you are not allowed to stop the assembly line. अभी भी ऐसे managers हैं. And what was the pace? From months, industrial age में, agriculture age में अभी भी monthly या quarterly pace है. Industrial age mindset के अंदर 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 3 shifts a day, 24 hours factory चलेगी, लेबर्स काम करेंगे. और कुछ एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशंस भी ऐसे हैं जो फैक्ट्री के मैकेनिज्म के ऊपर चलते हैं. पहली शिफ्ट 4 घंटे की, दूसरी शिफ्ट 4 घंटे की, तीसरी शिफ्ट 4 घंटे की. यू सी अराउंड, सी इन योर ओन सिटी और तहसील और कस्बा और हेडक्वार्टर, what kind of institutions you have and what kind of mindset is being used. देखिए तो mindset है. This is a mindset of telling the workers, telling the students, teacher is always right. Student will simply sit and listen. Here comes the information age. And when we speak of the information age, students can also click on the internet and see what's being said in this subject. Whatever I'm talking here in knowledge management, is it up to date, up to the market? What is being taught and learned in the industrial and developed society? And then, speaking of the information age, we used to use copper cables, but those copper cables are being replaced by the glass fiber now, and the glass cable. And look at the speed, light speed. That means pace has increased, that the information can travel around the world 7 times in a second, light speed. So the business can be on the speed of the light. And let me say then, the business can be on the speed of your thought. And your thought sometimes can even travel faster than the light. If you think of the customer who might be in South America, who has placed an order and you like to satisfy him, your thought can travel much faster. So pace is increasing. We are no longer in months and days and hours. We are talking of seconds. Remember, you speak of transactions. How many microseconds it takes? When you put the card, you expect the result right there. Remember, we use the card in the bank, ATM card. You want to draw the cash. As soon as you hit the button, you want the response back. Quick response, there and then. और देखिए ऐसे रेस्टोरेंट के जो देर एंड देन आपके सामने कुक करके आपको प्रोवाइड करते हैं, especially if you can find some Japanese restaurants. Pace is increasing. So my dear students, then it's a game of learning at the individual level and at the business level. So this knowledge worker, this knowledge manager, this knowledge professional, he is the one who owns the dollar, because the dollar is now associated with the expertise and knowledge which he has. And remember I said, he or she walks away from the company at 5 o'clock and takes away a lot of knowledge about the customer, a lot of knowledge about the marketing strategies, a lot of knowledge about the new product design. And think of it, if he or she sells it away to someone else, how much loss there could be to that organization. So we need to learn how to become knowledge worker and how to deal with these knowledge workers. So in other words, the economic shifts in the markets were agriculture in the 1700s. Ownership of the land and the livestock and the farm workers, that was the management model. Industrial age in the 1800s. Ownership of the capital and the means of production. Remember, we talk about factors of production. Here comes the knowledge age in the 90s. ये पिछले 20 साल की कोई बात है, बल्कि 20 भी नहीं, शायद उससे भी कुछ कम. Only 2 decades. And speaking of knowledge and information, who is the ownership? Who has the ownership of the knowledge? Is it the databases of the company? Is it the policy manual of the company? Remember हमने quality management में कहा था documentation of the process? Is it really that the documents which you have written the process in, marketing process, operation process, purchasing process, customer handling process, that is the information, that is the knowledge? Or is it the knowledge which is in the heads of the workers, heads of the manager, heads of the people who work for that company? That is more important. जिसको हम कहते हैं tacit knowledge versus explicit knowledge. कम से कम ये 2 kind of knowledge तो मैं आपके साथ इनके नाम तो बता ही दूं ना. So speaking of the ownership of knowledge, explicit knowledge, okay, the companies can own it. Their manuals, their documents, their databases, their intranet, their web pages, fine. Their portals, fine. But what is most important? Important is the knowledge which the managers and the workers takes away every evening, every night. And if they don't return, what would happen? That is what you get the competitive advantage upon. That is where the knowledge gets obsoleted so fast. If you do not retrain your workforce, if you do not retrain and make your manager learn the new techniques. And that's why I expecting you that while you are in the class, that you learn that what are the new types of knowledge, the new types of skill sets which will be required in the market when the markets are facing these economic shifts. So my dear students, then while coming to the end of this session, what we have seen is that over the period of hundreds of years, there have been economic shifts. There have been mind shift. There have been skill set shift. And you must learn now that while moving into the knowledge economy, what kind of skill set and the mindset you need to shift. And I'm ready, you can face this challenge and you can switch the kind of skill set which is required for today and tomorrow and the years and the months and the decades to come, to give and to get a competitive advantage. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next session, and until then, Khuda Hafiz.